I'm sick of arguing about bar charts. Today, I'm embarking on an adventure to only use the absolute cheapest M-series Apple laptop, the M1 MacBook Air, for the next week. This laptop costs a fraction of the other machines that we've recently talked about, but my hypothesis is this thing still has it word counts. So let's get to it. But before this week is over, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, iFixit. Okay, 1 week later, no kidding, that was a pretty crazy week. Between holiday planning, work, YouTube, and my crippling WoW Classic obsession, I put in a serious amount of work on the old M1 here. And I'd have to say, if we were to summarize this whole video at the beginning, it wasn't too bad. The point of the video was to show just how relevant this older computer could be, and that those of us chasing the shiniest and newest thing, we're kind of spending money that we don't need to. So I'm not sure why I was so surprised with how well it went. The whole point was to kind of just have things work, and they did just kind of work. First off, let's talk about how much you yourself would spend if you bought an M1 MacBook Air. Now, quickly glancing at the internet, it looks like you can get one of these base models, which is the model that I use, the 8-core CPU, 7-core GPU, 256 gigabytes of storage, and 8 gigabytes of unified memory. You can get that for as low as $600 renewed on Amazon to as high as $999 brand new from Apple. Obviously, I personally wouldn't buy one of these brand new. I would go refurbished from Apple for about $849, which, yes, it's a little pricier and you will have to balance that out, but for me it's worth it because I really like the Apple return policy and Apple Care ability. Either way, the point of this starting section is save yourself some money and don't go brand new. This next part of the video I was going to save for problems I found over the past week. Honestly, I didn't find many. The biggest problem that I ran into is something I've been complaining about with the standard M-series laptops for years. It only exports out to a single monitor, and I'm so sick of saying this specific section that I'm just gonna leave it at that. It sucks for me, it might not suck for you. If you're a single monitor person, don't worry about it. If you're a double monitor person, it's a little worse. Another thing that was a problem, but very noticeable, is having gotten used to the display on my M1 and later M3 Max, MacBook Pro 16s, this display is kind of lacking. It's not that it's bad, it's actually a pretty good display, and it's not that it's bad because of a slower refresh rate or other geek talk. Okay, in fairness though, it does take your eyes some time to adjust to the slowness though. My main two, I guess you could call them issues, are the gigantic bezel and the lower brightness ability. The bezels speak for themselves. This is an older computer built from an older time and design. You get used to it. It's not that much of a problem. The brightness, though, is kind of a problem for me. It only goes up to 400 nits of brightness, which is fine in controlled lighting environments, library, lecture hall, your home office, etc. But it's not very useful the second a beam of sunlight comes in through the window. And if I had to say there was one deal breaker in this whole video and all this time later, it would be this specific gripe. And it sounds like a small thing to call a deal breaker. I totally get it. You're like, oh, the screen brightness is a deal breaker. But if you are going to be outside using your computer a lot, I wouldn't get this one. Like, it is just harder to see this than other variants out there. Thanks again to iFixit for sponsoring this video. You can learn how to fix just about anything at ifixit.com. Search through thousands of free repair guides and find the high quality parts and precision tools to fix your phones, laptops, game consoles, and so much more. iFixit is your place to skip the materialism of the holiday shopping and focus on giving gifts that are actually meaningful. iFixit is now offering a brand new essential repair bundle that includes their essential electronics toolkit, electronics cleaning bundle, and even limited edition stickers and patches. I cannot get over how much I like stickers. Thankfully, I have not grown out of that as I've gotten older. Go to their website today by clicking on that very easy link in the description below and find your fix. For performance, I'm going to put up some benchmarks taken throughout the course of the past week using Cinebench R24. It's okay. Obviously, numbers going up wise, it's not up to speed with the latest and greatest from Apple, but it's still pretty darn good. One thing to note of these ARM-based Apple computers, they punch way above their literal weight and price tag weight. Prices don't have weights. So while the M1 MacBook Air is less powerful than most powerful Apple computers, it's still way more usefully powerful than any competing Windows computer. Not just in power, because I will admit that the latest Intel and AMD processors, they are faster than this one, but it's in useful power, it's really hard to max. Gaming is never Apple's strong suit, but I was very impressed with how the M3 Max handled my gaming workload, which frankly it should at that very steep price tag. The M1 MacBook Air, especially the base model, has probably the weakest of Apple's gaming suits in their current gen Apple computer set. Yes, computers wear suits. I don't know if you knew that. I was able to play WoW Classic at reasonable frame rates after kicking down the graphical settings very low, and it is like a 15-year-old video game. I was also able to play some RimWorld, and in fairness, that's a basic 2D simulation game, so it should be able to do that. But personally, I don't play many cutting-edge game releases. Sorry, we're not much of gamers here in the house. For normal use, I did have to be careful. One thing that the M3 Max MacBook Pro 16 has allowed me to do is get in a real bad habit of desktop management. I just leave crap programs open all the time. Photoshop, BattleNet Launcher, whatever. I just keep it all running in the background all the time because I have the CPU and the memory headspace to allow for it. Here, you don't have such luxuries. You will need to be a bigger ascetic in keeping only the programs you want open at any given time. And definitely, you need to break yourself of the habit of having many internet tabs open at once. If you can get around that though and be a little bit more disciplined in your computer use, and I imagine most of us could easily just click the red X to save ourselves some money, in that circumstance, the MacBook Air holds up very well. Operation was smooth, I never really had stutters or slowdowns. Functionally, it was just like any other week of mine, and I think that's the important note from this whole video. There wasn't really a standout benefit or a standout detraction from using the MacBook Air. If you can save a ton of money and not notice that difference in your computer, that's great. This is the bag brand cereal from the grocery store of computer technology. In a good way. We've got MacBook Pro at home, and this is the MacBook Pro at home you've got. Another thing I was pretty happy about was the ease in which it plugged into my existing desk setup. Sure, that isn't overly surprising, right? My desk setup is made up for Apple computers, and this is an Apple computer, but it's nice to know they haven't changed standards around or done anything too crazy over the past 3 years. With an asterisk being that my second monitor was blank over the last week, which did kind of suck, and okay, it didn't plug into my entire desk setup. This doesn't bother me as much here for 2 reasons though. One is it's a much cheaper computer than others with this specific handicap. The M3 standard MacBook Pro costs so much more and has the equivalent problem. And number 2, in regards to that standard M3 MacBook Pro, this only has Thunderbolt ports. You don't see an HDMI here. So it's not like you have an HDMI and a Thunderbolt port and only one works at a time. Yes, I haven't yet emotionally recovered from that frustration. Someday I will let it go. Other functional positives were the build quality. I've had this computer since its release. It's been all over the United States through many airport security scanners. It's knocked around on car rides, plane rides. It's been dropped a few times. Yes, I'm clumsy. I've let kids use this to play Roblox on. Like, the darn thing still looks like it did on the day I bought it. The screen does kind of look gross because I don't clean it as often as I should, but besides that, this looks immaculate. Also, functionally, this continues to be the most comfortable MacBook to type on. I haven't said this in a minute, but the sloped body design fits my, I guess you could call it typing style. It fits my style of typing really well. Because of these front slopes, I never get the edge of the computer digging into my wrists here, and it just feels ergonomically better. Now, I'm not a doctor or a hand expert, so don't take this as medical advice that the MacBook Air will solve or fix any problems, but I personally feel more comfortable typing here than on other computers. The weight is also awesome. You can't even tell this thing is in your satchel or backpack, and that's really important to me because a couple of weeks ago, I was carrying around a backpack walking around the town of Savannah, and I was carrying my MacBook Pro in a backpack for hours a day, and no kidding, my shoulders still hurt from that. No, the Air probably wouldn't have totally solved my shoulder pain, but it maybe would have lessened it greatly, and that's something I'm willing to explore in the future. The speakers are kind of mid though. They're not terrible in any way, shape, or form, but they absolutely cannot keep up with the newer Mac computers, especially the MacBook Pro 16. And then something else I guess I should have added to the problems, but I'll talk about it now. The webcam is just bad. Like, I can't make up some kind of waffle about, well, it's good for the price and in combination with the rest of the value, it's actually good. No, this webcam is straight up bad. And even when the computer was released years ago, they should have put something better in here. So after a solid week of use, yes, the M1 MacBook Air is still a fantastic option. You don't need to go chasing the waterfall of the latest and greatest every time Apple has a big event. Some of these older things are just they're just so good. Yes, I do think the M1 MacBook Air is a big upgrade over any of the Intel Macs. If you still have one of those, seriously consider this machine. But the M2 MacBook Air isn't all that much better, and the M3 Pros are so much more expensive, you really need to stop and ask yourself if you need that much capability, because frankly, you probably don't. But what about you? Do you still have an M1 MacBook Air? How is it holding up years later? Let us all know in the comments below. And if you like this video, click here if you decided you do need some more horsepower. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.